right, I'll call the meeting to order. Its agenda, date, time, and location were properly announced. Thank you all for coming out to the meeting tonight. We will start off with the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 21st, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Rainey, is there a second?
Second.
Chris, any corrections, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval for the amount of $880,506.92 for the month of August. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Chuck, is there a second? Katie, any questions or discussion?
Only thing that happened, I just wondered what the wall panels were for Sigma Athletics.
Oh, yes, if you go into the high school gym, we have new padding on either side of where like the basketball court where you'd go. Those were getting older, so I think they're thicker, newer, have some branding on them, so if you get a chance to go in there, they look pretty sharp.
Okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the cash summary.
I didn't have any questions, and you know, as I look at it, this one, there's not really anything too much to highlight on, so if you don't have any questions, good.
All right. And that takes us into donations. We got a nice long list.
Yes, so you know what, our classroom teachers always looking for different ways to bring in fun things for our district, for our students, and that's just a testament right there of all of our staff that over the summer put something on Donors Choose to help them for the year. And you wouldn't believe how, for a while there, I thought I couldn't almost believe how many we were putting on here of Donors Choose. So thank you to every one of those teachers. Some teachers are up there for multiple things, and just always trying to take what we're doing and make it a little bit better. So, good stuff.
Great. Any questions? Did I have a question?
Sure.
What'd you do with that $3,000 for ice cream? Did you pass that out yet?
We passed it out.
All right.
So I do have on my update when we had to postpone our open house ice cream social. We had a lot of ice cream. So fortunately, we put our heads together and said, who doesn't love, what students don't love ice cream? So on Friday, the second day of school, we had some National Honor Society students and some staff, and we were scooping out ice cream for all the students. So it did not go to waste. We had a little bit extra, and then we asked staff on Monday to bring any bowls or things like that. So thank you to Tommy. It went to a good cause, and many happy children and adults with that.
Okay, great. Next, we have comments from the public, and I do have one on here tonight. Kristen Chapman with the Middle School, High School Choir Survey. Hi. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I just have a concern of a survey that went out to the middle school and the high school choir. We're new to middle school. My son is in 6th grade. He's supposed to go to choir. In this survey, there was a question asked that I feel was inappropriate. The question was to specify what pronoun my son would like to identify by. The survey was 5 to 6 questions long, and the teacher is trying to justify by saying that she was trying to get to know her students. The survey did not include very many questions to try and get to know the students. I just don't think that I'm going to stand for something like that being put out in school. And I made my voice heard by Mr. Trimberger. I emailed the teacher, and I also emailed the principal. They all did respond back to me, but I don't feel as though.
All right. Thank you. but you were responded to, like originally you don't feel it was handled appropriately? Is that what you were saying, or
I feel
after
like
the fact?
communication, the teacher is pretty, in just justifying, what was on there. So I don't know how else she's gonna try and bring this agenda into the classroom. That is my concern. Um, Mr. Timberger was very willing to meet with me and talk with me, to handle the situation. He did have a conversation with the teacher and assured me that the question would be removed for future years. But I do not feel like that. Should have never even happened. The teacher also said that this is the first year that this question has raised any concerns, and so that my concern is, why was this not brought to anybody last year? I do know a few students who went into our classroom last year, and they assured me that that question was never there. So I'm not sure what the truth is on that. The principal did email me, just this afternoon after raising concern on Thursday. And that conversation, I don't feel went very well, in the sense of pretty much good luck in your education journey.
Okay.
I have kept all of I have 4 children. I've kept all of my children home since Friday. And I'm fully prepared to homeschool them this year.
Well, this isn't an action item that we could take any action on. We do appreciate that you came to the board to let us know, how you feel about this. I would say that our board as a rule is a little more on the conservative side if you've, seen the things that we've done in the past. And, so I would say there are times that we have to work through things.
Right.
And, hopefully you will give us that opportunity to work through
Sure.
what's going on. And that's probably really all we can really say, because this is not
I just
an
don't know
agenda
how
item.
else these things are going to be infiltrated into the classroom.
Well, and
It's already
it,
starting. My son is 11.
right, and I think those are things that we have to take one by one as they come and try to, let our staff know what the board and our community
Right.
wants, and to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I'm guessing we will have hiccups, not that we want them, but as long as I feel like if they're being addressed,
Mr. Timberger has gotten very helpful.
That-
And, the other ones, I wouldn't agree.
okay. So we have some work to do, and we'll keep doing it.
Sounds good.
But thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. And I don't have any other public comments, so we will move on from that to referendum discussion.
Very good. Well, first of all, we have the updates, so you can take a look. And just our monthly, here we are, here's what we're doing. If you got a chance to read that. More importantly, we have our guest of honor with Kevin Mullen coming in today. And I hope you saved up all your tough mill rate and taxation questions and all that other good stuff. So if we don't have any questions with this, I know we have a PowerPoint that Kevin put together, a very extensive PowerPoint that could teach us all about school finance and take about an hour and a half. So I said, let's hit the high points, and then we can use some of your slides for questions and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah,
So,
thanks so much, Mike, and for those of you who don't remember me, or I know maybe at least one new board member, I'm Kevin Mullen. I work with Baird. I assisted the district with the referendum planning, and our school business solutions team also works with Patty and Mike in terms of helping with the budget and some of your budget planning, not with just capital projects in mind, but also just your whole operational budget. And so the slides that I brought with me tonight were part of the webinar that we put together. We basically, right now, in the school year, the cyclical cycle of the school year, you're obviously considering your budget for next year, and you're gonna levy an amount to not only pay the debt service on the bonds that have been issued for the capital projects, including the referendum, but you're also going to levy a tax for potentially community service, as well as your operational levy. And so all of that is kind of the discussion you're having right now. And for us, it's a really exciting time because, these discussions are happening and you don't have all of the information. So some of the information that you're gonna get shortly, two big pieces of information in October. You're gonna find out what happened with the overall equalized value of the school district. The state maintains, as school values change, or as the value of your tax base changes, every year they update the equalized or fair market value of the school district, which is their best estimate of what it's worth. That will be coming forward in October. However, we put together an estimate because cities and villages have received a lot of their growth estimates, or they posted their growth. So we know what's happened there, and we make an estimate for the schools. So we have that information, but we won't know finals until the beginning of October. The other big piece of information is the amount of state aid that the school district will receive. So when you determine the budget for your school district, the state then tells you how much aid is coming to the school district. The difference between what you need for operations, or what the revenue limit provides for operations, and what you receive from state aid, that difference is what you levy. And so this is all kind of coming together, but the conversation obviously percolates until you get to the end of October, when you actually know those things and set your levy. To further complicate things, we're in a new biennial budget. The state passed legislation in the biennial budget that changes some of the assumptions with regard to funding for the school district. And so those things are also impacting your budget conversations and changing some of the assumptions that you're making moving forward. So all that is happening right now. So I promise not to be long-winded on every single one of these slides, but I wanted to set this up. So that's the timeline. So let's talk a little bit about the equalized value estimate that we prepared. So looking at what's happened in the communities that make up the Random Lake School District, we are assuming that you're going to have growth in your equalized value of about 13%. So that comes off of a double-digit increase last year as well. So what does that mean? It means that the value of the property, the homes and businesses and manufacturing facilities in the community are worth about 13% more this year than they were last year. And that's made up of two things. One is real growth, new things, new additions, new homes, new commercial properties. That's probably 1 to 2% of that growth amount. The other, the majority of it, is inflation. The homes in the community are worth more than they were last year, and the state estimated that here they've gone up about 10% year over year, 10 to 11% year over year, above what they were last year. So the combination of the two pieces of growth are what your full value has grown by.
Could I ask one question?
Yep.
Kevin? Is part of the state's analysis of that what actual home sales are?
Yes, yeah, that's what they're tracking. And it's not perfect. It lags what's actually happening, but they keep tabs on what actual home sales, what's actually happening. So, and that is often confused. That's real growth, or what they determine to be growth of the equalized or fair market value of the community. Every municipal entity, every city, village, or town has an assessment process that a town will make an assessment on the properties of different classes of property, and they'll set that assessment, and that's how your taxes are distributed. School levy, county levy, city levy. That is very static over time, so they set that assessment maybe in year one, and then they don't go back and periodic or annually redo that assessment to bring it up to current standards or current levels. So, the assessments get out of whack with real values over time. And periodically, they have to redo the assessment to bring that assessment closer to the equalized value. So the equalized value that you're going to receive is really a closer approximation of what all the values in the community are worth. Again, don't need to belabor each one of these slides, but it's an important element. So why that matters to you? You have a revenue limit that determines basically what the school can levy. It's your operational, there's a formula for your operational needs. That's the amount that the school district can levy, either between aid and local taxes combined together, plus whatever the school board or the community has voted to exceed the revenue limit, and in your case, that's the referendum levy. So those two pieces put together equal your total levy. So year over year, what happens, the dollars that you ask for, you know, those, you know, that's a number. You then divide that number by the value of the community, and that's your tax rate. So it's the levy that you ask for is kind of static, and as you get growth in value, your tax rate goes down. And the reason that I wanted to mention that is because we've had such strong growth in the state this year. The average in the state was 13%. Not only here, you were right at the average. In the state, it was 13%. But what that means is, you know, someone that had a $100,000 home last year, that home was worth $113,000 this year on average. And I'm using a very broad average. So if your tax rate remained the same year over year, that home owner is going to pay 13% more in dollars in taxes if your tax rate remained the same. If your levy remains constant, your tax rate is likely going to go down, and that taxpayer, you know, could pay more or less depending on how that relationship works with their value. But I guess the point is that it's really important to keep an eye in this growth situation, to keep an eye on both things, or discuss both things and understand the impact on both the tax rate and the levy,
So Kevin,
because both things matter.
I'm gonna stop you there, because I wanna make sure we get this.
Yep,
There's
and I'm gonna-
a lot of,
Yeah.
things. Do you understand the difference between tax rates and what our taxes are?
Yeah.
Everybody kind of up to, because now is a good time to ask questions, because now we start doing math. Now
Yeah,
the
yeah.
multiplication and division
Yeah.
comes in.
And I love math, and
Yeah.
please forgive me.
Yeah.
So,
Rini,
and,
are
know,
you good?
So the levy, the local portion,
Okay, good.
so the local portion, just the part that you ask for from your taxpayers, is the portion, you know, of your budget that isn't covered by state aid. So that's what drops. So that amount divided by your total property value gives you your tax rate, okay? And so in the state last year was 14% growth, and this year was 13% growth. So that's one thing to be aware of. And then Kim, if you want. So-
The growth, the 13 and 14% growth was the equalized property value.
Yep, and so equalized property value, another, I think a better way to phrase that is fair market value, because, you know, we talk about it, the state delivers all this messages as an equalized value, but then when it shows up on your tax bill, it's fair market value on your tax bill, which I think is confusing. But fair market value and equalized value are the same thing, and it's the best approximation of what your home is worth today. So, if, for example, last year, your levy was $1 million and your value was $100 million, your tax rate would have been $10 per thousand. If you stayed at $1 million and the value went up by 14%, your tax rate would go down to $877. But you've asked for the same $1 million from your taxpayers. So their home value was worth 14% more. They pay a lower tax rate, but the same dollars probably on average. If your tax bill, the dollars that you asked for went up 14% and the value went up 14%, your tax rate would stay the same. But the homeowner would probably pay about $14,000 more in taxes, or, you know, on average here, that would be $14,000 more in taxes. You know, so it's just important to understand the consequence of both of those things when you're talking about setting your levy. The reason, you know, I think that Mike and Patty had wanted to have that conversation because it's an important conversation in this community, and we want to make sure that you know, you as a board have the right information. But this is a great slide, but one that, so this is when you look at the difference. This is a community, in this case Wauwatosa, just to show you that there are two components to the change. So, for example, in Wauwatosa last year, commercial property or manufacturing properties went up by 1% in terms of their economic change, and 1% in terms of their real growth, like new stuff, manufacturing wise. So there was only really 2% growth in manufacturing in this community last year, Wauwatosa, compared to residential where there was 14% economic change. No new stuff of their 1% growth there. So they had 15% growth in residential, 1% growth in manufacturing. So even though they had, on average, about 12% in growth, most of that was a shift from commercial to residential. So there is some of that also going on within each group. It's really hard to know exactly what's happening, but there could be a rotation in the community between the classes of property that pay taxes. So, again, just something to be aware of. You may say, well, our value went up by 13%, and someone comes in and says, well, yeah, I've got lake property and mine went up 22%. This is true. It may be true. We can't account for all those subtle changes, but that just represents a shift in who in the community is paying taxes. And in that case, for every winner, there's for everyone that's not paying as much tax, there's a shift to someone of the burden somewhere else. Let me know if I'm belaboring things too much. It's okay, sorry about this stuff. And we can skip through this. 1 minute. And we'll come back to this slide as well, maybe. So just some things to consider. So if your tax rate versus tax levy, understand the impact of both, what's happening both with your tax levy and your tax rate. Same tax rate times higher property value will mean a higher tax bill. Kind of that slide that we talked about before. Or, if you keep your levy the same, dollars that you're asking for year over year, that's likely going to mean a lower tax rate, but could probably mean about the same dollars year over year. And then some things to think about, what's making up those trends. Referendum planning, we're not talking about that here, I don't believe, just kidding. We're just really kind of working through what is the afterglow of the last referendum. So we're 2 budgets into your referendum. This is the second levy for the referendum dollars this year.
And if I could, the second bullet from the top, the same rate and higher value, that's what we realized last year, right? Even though we dropped our mill rate by 10 cents, people were paying more real dollars because the value of their house went up. So even the drop in rate, you had real dollars were being paid more. And that was the environment we were in last year. And just to kind of put this in context of where we were last year to where we are this year.
It's good one. We want to talk more about the assessed versus equalized. We can. Any questions about that? It's a very confusing topic, but really, it's not. If there's a change in assessment, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a change in what you pay, because the assessment is just bringing that assessed value closer to fair market value. And then, if you don't mind, this is hard to see. It's not this slide. So a couple other things that I wanted to talk about. The biennial budget, as you know, one of the big pieces of change in the biennial budget was low revenue school districts like Random Lake have the ability, if they're a low revenue school, and I think you were right around the 10,000 mark.
Right at 10, yeah.
Yep, and so 10,000 was what was considered the low revenue limit previously. The state said if you're a low revenue limit school district, you can increase up to $11,000 per student. So from $10,000 per student to $11,000 per student within the revenue limit to keep up with inflation and to provide a standard, what the state feels is a standard of investment in education. So that addition, if you take the number of your average FTEs times $1,000, is a new dollar amount that can be added to your budget. So that's a change year over year that is likely going to put pressure on the dollars that you ask for. So it's likely going to increase the dollars that you ask for, give you the ability to do that if you so choose. And so the other thing that's important to mention about that, when the state, kind of historically, whenever they've had increases to the revenue limit, they've offset that with increases to equalized aid. So they've added to the aid pool. to offset some of the increases to the revenue limit. This year, they didn't do it entirely in the equalization aid formula. They added some money to the equalization aid formula to soften some of that burden, but they also added money to the school levy tax credit. And so, we'll talk about that in a minute, but that's a revenue that does not flow through the school district. It's actually a credit that gets subtracted from the school taxes on the tax bill, never comes to the school district. So it does soften the impact of that increase, but it's not something that you're going to see in your budget. And I'll explain that a little bit more. Yeah, well, we talked about this. This is just an outline of what the lower revenue limits increase would be for you guys or for a school district. It's really increasing the 10,000 per student, and if you click it in black, for more, increasing it to 11. So, yes, please. High poverty aid and voucher exemptions are two costs, so there's no longer any high poverty aid. So if you were receiving high poverty aid, which I don't think you received, that would have been taken out of your aid package by the state. And then also, school districts that have charter or choice students that are leaving the district, there's a larger payment that will be going out of your budget for those students. So there will be some tax impact if that's, the situation here. I don't know year over year.
We have about 100,000 last year, and
So it'll be
probably,
up a
I think
little
we're up
bit.
130 this
Yeah,
year is what we're thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
That will also, as a result of the budget, impact your local budget a little bit. It will increase the amount that you would need to ask for in taxes off. And then the school levy credit. The state added roughly 27% to the pool that's in that levy credit. And I'll show you roughly how that works. But that means that for you, that increase is going to go, you're going to get about 27% more in terms of the levy credit than you did last year on average. For you, I think it's slightly more than that. But it doesn't flow to the district. It's just something that gets spread out as a credit to the taxpayer. And I'll show you how that works here in a second. Here. So here's an example of a property tax bill. A couple of pieces of information that are worth noting. And you can get the thing. So to figure out your property tax bill, and this is really more for Mike and Patty because if they have property taxpayers that come in and want to know, the best way to do that, up on top of your tax bill, you're going to have a couple of values. You're going to have an assessed value, which for the school district is somewhat meaningless, in my opinion. And then you're going to have the total estimated fair market value, also known as equalized value. So if you take your total estimated fair market value, in this case, this is a home valued at $550,000, and multiply that by the local school tax rate. So, last year, whatever your tax rate was, if you were to multiply 550 times that tax rate, you get a dollar amount. So let's just say in this case, that dollar amount was about, in 2019, for schools, it would have been about $5,000, $5,050. Would have been your tax rate times the equalized value of that house. But then up here in this box, and I never said they were going to make it easy, the school tax is reduced by school levy credit. And on this property, that was $750. So what shows up on the school line in 2019 is $750 less because of that credit. So if you were to take this number divided by the fair market value, it's a tax rate less than what you would ask for in your budget. And that's because it's reduced by the credit. State makes, it's confusing, right? But it works. This number, that 750 in this case, is going to go up by 27%. So what that means is you'll pass a tax rate. They'll go through this math. What a taxpayer is going to look at is, all right, Random Lake Schools, last year I paid $3,600. This year I paid $4,400. $400, that's net of this credit. There, it's worth at least keeping that in the back of your mind, that this comparative number will be softened by the additional dollars that are part of this tax credit. It's a lot of information, but does that make sense to you? I know some of you're shaking your head, but maybe it's just, it's easier to look away.
I forgot to warn you, there is a test at the end of
Yeah.
it, so I hope you're taking notes.
We'll get a copy of this.
Yes.
You can have this PowerPoint.
I was gonna ask if you have the
We have your
PowerPoint
phone
email.
number too.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. No, like working through this. Yeah, so, but and please don't put this in the paper, this is a very rough estimate. But if you take like all the total property tax credit dollars that are flowing to Random Lake schools, it's about $300,000 more than what it was last year. So that's not money that like gets netted out of your budget, like it would if it was the, equalization aid. But it is money that is added to the credit and will be spread out amongst all the property taxpayers of the district. The reason that it's hard to figure out who gets what, it's unlike, the equalization aid formula that just nets out of your budget. This is distributed by each individual municipality based on the amount of property that a taxpayer has. So, short way of saying it will benefit high property tax owners. So, the state legislature, the state aid formula benefits is kind of weighted towards school districts that have low value behind each student. It's the tax credit they feel gets shared by everyone, even if they have high property values. So that's the reason they added it. Yeah, well, so I guess, those are the major pieces of information that I wanted to share with you. So I imagine that in your conversation, as you start talking about your budget, Mike, Patty, and I have looked at some very early estimates of what the budget looks like, and you're far from getting, you don't have all the answers in place. But it looks like it's very probable that your levy year over year, the dollars that you asked for, are close to what you asked for last year, maybe even a little bit less. I think you have, I want to confirm this with Patty, I think you have some additional debt service funds that have carried over from last year that can be used to reduce your debt service levy this year. So you could, soften that blow this year or use, hold on to them for next year to do that next year. So like one of the decisions you may have is you want to keep your levy constant year over year so that, there's not bumps up and down for taxpayers. I think that's going to be something that we easily manage. Do you want to just look at the tax rate in terms of how you communicate that, or do you want to communicate it in terms of what you expect taxpayers to be paying? They're just, I think, some important touch points in terms of how you communicate and how you think about your tax levy, your tax budget.
When you said the levy is less or the same, does that include an increase for people?
Yeah, yes, so that includes that. Now, we're early in the budget process, and like I said, there are a couple of big pieces of information that we don't have yet, including state aid. So we've used an estimate of state aid. The state provides an estimate in July. For the last 30 years, that estimate has been something that we could really kind of count on. They're actually, the way that they've compiled that estimate this year is a new system and a new format. And based on what we've seen, we feel like that's probably an aggressive estimate. And I expect that this will be 1 year where you might be surprised and the aid you receive is actually less than what was presented in July. So it's just worth keeping some tools in your toolbox so that if your goal is to manage your levy to be even year over year, that you've got some ways to do that.
So in general, since our levy, the total amount we're asking our taxpayers is going to be more or less similar. I won't say it's the same, less or more, but it'll be similar. And individuals' houses values are going up. the real dollars they're paying should be similar to last year. And the mill rate, which was the thing that we've always said we would work on, our mill rate will be dropping because people's values are going up. The amount they're paying for school should be staying the same, so the mill rate should drop. And I think we're fortunate because of prepaying, when we prepaid the last referendum and we saved all that money in interest, that helped defer this. So now in this situation where our per pupil allocation went up, it actually helps create a budget that is very similar in total dollars as it was last year.
Because
So,
you had kind of, not a hole, but, there was a gap in your budget that, where debt service used to be. It's not.
so, we're paying similar, kind of the thing that we've told our community as we went forward. We wouldn't raise the mill rate, which we'll see a good drop. I don't know if I want to say significant, but it'll be one of the bigger drops that we've had in years. We'll see more what the next few weeks come up until we get to October, but it's looking favorable.
But the wild card is what's the,
State aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wild card. I wouldn't say, I can't tell how dramatically off it's going to be, but I do think it probably will be. I don't think it'll be millions off, I think I don't. Yeah.
but that could affect.
So,
taxpayers.
yeah, I do think that you have some flexibility with your debt levy. So right now, we're assuming, based on the conversations that we had this morning, and again, this is very preliminary, we're assuming that we're levying the full amount. But I think that we have about $200,000 of, funds that were left over from the defeasance that could be used to reduce that a little bit. So if your aid comes in less than expected, so you have to levy more, you could use that to add to your debt service. So there are some things we can do to manage it.
And are all districts in this position where they're waiting for
Yes.
state aid?
Yep. So state aid is, it's announced across the state on October 15th. 13th sometimes, they sometimes leak it out a little bit early. But yes, they're pulling all that information together. And so many school districts approve their budget in September and then update it in October once they know what the actual aid amount is. Your situation's a little bit different. I think you have your budget hearing in October.
Yeah, we do it, we used to have it that way, and it just didn't make sense to have a whole hearing off of not knowing the numbers.
Yeah.
So we pushed it to October. It makes the windows a little tighter, but actually what we're presenting to the community is what we're presenting and not just the best guess, which right now this is best guess, and we're always close in best guess, but October we're even more tighter.
And I would say, just because of the way that the state is, they're using a new system to gather the information for aid. And we work with a lot of schools and we've recognized that some of what other schools have reported have been off. And so that will tilt the distribution. So I'm sure that, if it's happening in one or two, it's probably happening.
Just like last year, just because things seem status quo on average, there's gonna be some people paying more, there's gonna be some
Yeah.
people paying less.
Yeah, and you
so
can't
there's gonna
manage
be-
that, you can't
right.
manage that away, it's for good or bad, and I'm not going to opine, like the state of Wisconsin pays for schools and other municipal services, public services through property taxes. And they feel that the best way to share on that is, people that have a higher fair market value should pay more. And so, the classic example is, someone that has lake property compared to someone that doesn't. If lake property becomes really hot, their property value is going to go up more significantly, more quickly than someone that's away from the lake. And so that shifts tax burden from the person away from the lake to the person on the lake, for example. That it happens between classes of property, manufacturing to residential. I think we're going to see some of that. Commercial to residential, we're going to see some of that. So, we can get close, but there's still going to, be some shifts within each municipality in terms of who's paying the burden.
You work strictly with schools, or do you also work with municipalities?
Municipalities as well, counties.
So as much as we can account for what we do on this board, we, people ultimately, they just look at what's their final bill.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't
Yeah.
go in depth with this is all, but we're one of the taxing entities, so
If
we
you
get the,
looked on that tax bill, there are 4 entities that are on that tax bill. You have control over one line on that bill, and the other entities have their own budgets.
But we don't have full control because we have the changes in property values.
Oh, yeah,
and
yes.
Some values they're paying a higher rate.
Yes,
We
correct.
can control our levy.
You can control your levy, correct.
and our budget as far as what we're spending.
Yep.
Good?
Anyone else?
Can I digest it?
Yeah.
It'll be nice to have that, your slide to go back and
Yeah.
kind of study more. in depth.
I did the math here. I just didn't have time to put random links tax bill up here, but it works.
Okay,
Good.
all right.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very
Kevin.
much. I really appreciate your patience and your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, that takes us into board committee reports, and we have none. Building reports.
School year. Becky and I would say at all 3 levels, we've had a very nice start, a very great start. It's been wonderful to see the kids back in the building, but very positive, all over. So just can't say enough positive about the start of the year. Our PLC collaboration meetings are underway. That is where the teachers meet either as a grade level team or a department level team, and they meet weekly or biweekly, and they're digging into high leverage instructional strategies with a focus on framing the lesson. So framing the lesson is when a teacher starts their lesson, they have their opener, which is talking about the learning objective and what students will learn and be able to do today. And then they're going to do a close to that lesson, which is bringing it back to the learning objective. And then doing some sort of activity that shows the student's level of application and understanding of that learning objective. So that's going to be our high leverage strategy that we're focused on as an entire district staff, and they're going to be incorporating that in their instructional planning conversations. So those are underway as of last week and moving forward.
All right, along with all of these wonderful strategies that we're seeing in the classroom, all of our students in the middle and elementary school participated in the Exact Path. So that dives even more deeply into what students know and how we can help them in the classroom. That was for reading and math and comprehension. And then moving on to our DOT literacy theme, the fine arts, music and arts have decided to use literature throughout the year. So we had our first DOT day based on the DOT book, September 15th. And if you walk down toward the elementary school office, you'll see this beautiful artwork of all that the students made in order of that day and the support of the book.
So moving on to strong cultures, so we had kickoff assemblies at the middle and high school level, and those were really, the high school we had, as soon as the kids came to school on the first day, the staff lined up and the students all walked through the line of staff applauding them. You can always tell when the freshmen are there because they're like, what is this? They're a little nervous about meeting the staff like that, but it was very positive. Middle school did it on the first day as well during their academic resource time. Really kicking off, coming together as a staff and student culture to work together. So very positive that way. High school, we had class officer selection, so those were the last 2 weeks as they're meeting as grade level teams. That's usually what they do during the first 2 Wednesdays of the month. Senior class has identified what their homecoming theme is. It's haunted homecoming, can't have homecoming on Friday the 13th for the game without it being a haunted homecoming. So we have Spirit Week activities. It'll be the week of October 7th through the 13th. working with Haley Vandenbush as a senior class advisor as to what those spirit days will all entail. Looking at that weekend before the 7th will be the window decorating in our businesses, as well as starting float decorating and hallway decorating. And then similar to last year, we're going to do float building on site here, because especially it worked out well for our freshmen and sophomores who are not drivers, getting out to the location. We're going to adjust the schedule a little bit where it's going to put our academic resource time at the end of the day. So we're going to do all homecoming activities at the end of the day. So like the last 45 minutes of each day, where they're going to be given time to be working as grade level teams throughout homecoming. So we have the parade set for Friday, kickoff 2:15, similar to last year. Same parade route as last year. And I know we've had a request that the band kick it off this year. And so those are all underway with more information to come on that.
So then thinking about our strong community connections, we have the color run coming up this Saturday. Just had all of my color run information here. September 23rd at the elementary school, registration starts at 5:30 p.m. It is a 3K run, 6 o'clock p.m. the run starts. There's going to be color and bubble blasting fun, a glow party, after party, photo booth, food trucks, and DJs. So we're really excited about partnering with the PTO for kids and just having a great time with families.
Community Service Day. So this was something that we were going to do in the spring of last school year, but we decided to move it and do it in the fall. So that's coming up for the high school, and that's coming up this Wednesday. So the morning time will be our Community Service Day. There's a variety of different activities that students have signed up for to give back to our community. And so that'll be the morning part, and then the afternoon will be our school session there. So looking forward to some great giving back to the community on Wednesday. Cross Country Run-a-thon, that's been in our newsletters. So this is being put on by the cross country team. They have selected a day, I don't remember offhand, it was in October 6th. And so all day different classes can sign up to come out and just do a walk around the track. So they're raising money for cross country. We have a variety of classes and teachers that have already signed up to bring their students out. Students don't have to donate, but we're just trying to encourage, hey, 50 cents or $1 even, just to raise money for that. And some of our teachers are getting really creative while they're going to do book chats while they're walking around the track and different things like that to really bring in the curriculum aspect as well.
All right, and then we have a staff acknowledgement. Our Herb Cole candidate, Mindy Surges, just been a staple in the Random Lake Elementary for many years. She most recently has really spearheaded this mentor program for our new employees. She worked with area districts to get a grant, and that grant was, they earned it, and we're finding out ways to really just enhance her mentoring program that Mindy has really kind of led and been a model for teachers in the district. So excited that she's our candidate.
About this year's junior class officers process, the selection process, and that it's not consistent with how it's been done in the past, and that there's some confusion and disappointment that the junior class, they weren't able to vote for their class officers. So I just wanted to understand what changed and why that change happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in following up with Mrs. Miller and Ms. Lucas, who are the junior class advisors, when was first made aware that there was a change in how that came about, just to understand as well. And so how they approached it this year with their class is that they were taking into account kind of what had happened over the last 2 years. So as you know, class advisors work closely with their classes each school year, raising money for the different activities that they're doing, especially for as it gets closer to prom and their senior year with graduation, homecoming, and different things like that. So these last 2 years, they've struggled as a grade level, just getting the leadership with the student body and the activities and the volunteers. And so they approached it with the class this year that, you know what, we're really going to be looking at who we have in these leadership positions to really be moving forward the grade level, because this is a big year with prom. Planning and all the expenses that go along with that, that we really want to make sure that we're ensuring on the behalf of the grade level. So they said they wanted to approach it differently by those who are interested. First, they asked the class, would you be okay with those who have indicated that they're interested in an officer position? They go through the regular motions of why, what position they're for and why, and what they will bring to the class. But then the class advisors decided to make the decision then on their own versus leaving it up to student vote for this year because it was such a critical year, just based on the last 2 years of the leadership that was there. Didn't necessarily fulfill all of the obligations or requirements it needed in order to move the class forward. The majority of the class said yes, they were open to it. It wasn't 100%. It wasn't. But they went with the majority. The students, there's about 20-ish students that did indicate that they wanted some sort of class officer position. And so how they approached it then was 2 for each position, and then anyone else, all the rest of them were given advisory, like they're an advisory committee, so they're all a leadership position. They gave them all a leadership position, so that way that could then still be utilized for applications and things like that as they're coming into their senior year. They did tell the class next year it will be a vote. That was known out of the gate. They followed up with all of the students to indicate how did it go, how did you feel it went, do we feel we have the good representation for the leadership positions, and they said overwhelmingly the response was yes, that they felt that the leadership representation was who they would have wanted in those positions based on their experience from the last 2 years. So they told them right out of the gate it will be a vote for next year, but they just wanted to ensure the best leadership for this year, knowing it was a crucial year.
I'm really concerned about this because this is student government and our district vision is to provide smart leaders with a distinct advantage. And it seems like we're talking about students that are 16, 17 years old. Are we really looking at them as smart as leaders? We're not allowing them to go to their class president. So I'm so grateful for our advisors, and they know the class, they know the student.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to always see that voting process in place. It's that democratic process is a fundamental American value, and I think this is where kids get to experience that and learn that leadership. So I would like to see that instilled in every selection process, but also realizing the advisors understand the unique situation within the class, so they're making time where if a student is ineligible or if they can't fulfill the duties of the role, that of course they have oversight for that. But I do think that they're acting in the best interest of our students, but I'm really concerned about taking away the students' ability to vote. And I know we did have students that were very disappointed that they didn't have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, the piece of this is, it goes back to trusting our advisors, knowing our kids, and all these other things. Are there different ways that we may have done that? I think we all could have looked at different ways that we may do something like this. But knowing that, and Bree and I had a conversation earlier today, knowing this group was trying to do what was best for this, and knowing that they know this group better than anyone else. I think anytime there's changes, there's going to be questions about it, and one of the things I say is how do you support your advisors, but then question when they're doing these things. I'm sure they didn't do this. This is something that was done not because they wanted to, but because they felt it. So, yeah, no, and for anyone that is disappointed, feel free to reach out to us and let us know about that. In a way, I would think the time that the advisors took to have the discussion with students and to have that majority wins mentality with how they did this, I don't think the full democratic process was taken. So I think we'll learn from this.
If they're not voting, then it, because that's.
That's an objective. The first I've heard about this, okay? And I understand what you said, Susan, about what the advisors are trying to take the best interest into the hearts of the students, right? But to me, this just cuts at the core of the fundamental value of this country, which is voting. And now we're going to decide that, because we know best, and I don't mean to, not the advisors, but I applaud the fact that they're, volunteering their time and doing that, but it's a slippery slope when we start doing this. Well, we're going to do it this year, but not next year, and we won't do it again in the past, or maybe next year it'll come around and all of a sudden, well, it worked last year, so let's do it again in a different path. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm absolutely against that. I think that this should be a simple voting process, the democratic process, the most basic one we have. And if we start to undermine that, no matter what the intentions are, and I'm sure they're all good intentions, I just think it's a wrong process to go through. I think it's worked for hundreds of years. You vote in the majority of whoever your candidates are, good or bad. We all know we vote bad candidates at times, but good or bad, you vote and the majority wins. I just don't like this idea of tinkering around with, well, it might work best, but we know the class, and we're going to pick the best leaders. The class should pick the best leaders.
That's, and I think that the truth, I agree with everything you say there, Chuck. But if we get the prom and don't have a dance, then we can let down a lot of people. So,
I don't know that we have to assume that we're not going to have a dance because maybe we didn't have the right leadership. Then it's incumbent upon the advisors maybe to coach up or explain to the student body or the class body as a whole it's their responsibility and they have to learn that. Maybe they make changes.
Yeah, so your feedback is greatly appreciated, and I know the advisors appreciate it too, and I hear what you're saying, Chuck, and I think you're right that sometimes who's voted in, they haven't done their job, and that's what they saw the last couple of years. You're right, not everyone voted in. We is our candidate, and that's the democratic way. And I think here they were just trying to ensure that they can have these activities and other opportunities open to them. And going forward, it's the voting process. And that's what I'm hearing, and that's what we'll be indicating moving forward. We want to not only support our students, we want to support our staff as they were trying to ensure the best possible outcomes for the junior and senior year. And we want to empower our students with their voice to put who they, whether it is their friends or they're voting for who they feel has the best leadership, whatever it is that's behind their intention or their vote, we want to ensure that they have their student voice as a part of the process too. So appreciate the feedback, and also appreciate our parents bringing it forward so that way we can always continue to grow and question ourselves. That's what we need to do.
We have criteria and guidelines, including a voting process, and that's related to homeschool. But I mean, I guess that's why we establish policies or different things, because things happen and we want to make sure that things stay on the path that
I think a one-off, you might want to be, I guess I'd caution about getting too tight and too rigid when you have a one-off. I mean, if you see a pattern, absolutely, that's a different story. Mhm.
So that's why we want to really ensure that remains consistent. I'm just really concerned about the messages when you make changes like this and we're not consistent.
Well, also though, it's a learning opportunity, just as Chuck said. Not everything goes the way that you think it's going to go. And that's a learning piece too, because that's the one thing about schools is we're learning all sorts of things. They're also learning from disappointment. They're learning from the successes. And that's part of what all of the teachers work through with kids and teaching. It's teaching all of those aspects. And I think sometimes it's about not everything necessarily goes 100% the way you think it's going to go. But what do we learn from that and move on from this and learn and move forward with this process? I think that's something that advisors have already been discussing. And I think we need to give them an opportunity as well to grow with this process, just like we do with students. To try to come in and just say, because we're this, we want to ensure it goes one way, but that's not the learning process either, because we learn from all different experiences and perspectives. I guess I would just caution, but how you want to roll. It's just, it is a one-off, and they are taking the feedback and they are thinking about it and thinking it through. Let's give them an opportunity to move forward with it as well.
I think because we live in America, I think it's a great opportunity to learn how to choose effective leaders. And I would like that to be the biggest thing from this, because that's something they're going to hopefully take with them the rest of their lives. And we don't want apathy around voting. So I think that's something we can help instill in school, and this is kind of one of the only opportunities they get to do that. So I'd like to ensure that. Okay.
That was the,
Just making sure we're done.
all right, let's move on to the request for agricultural, from the agricultural teacher, Whitney, to go to the 2023 National FFA Convention.
Hello, everybody. Back again. So this year's convention is still held in Indianapolis. Looking for your support to support our high school students going and interacting with other students from all over the United States, getting to see colleges and businesses and those opportunities. Of course, sprinkle them with a little bit of rodeo and talking about Kiss and the Bricks, maybe at Indy this year, and and looking at about, right now I have 6 for sure, but up to 10 once we figure out the bus load with that, and the members pay half and the chapter covers the other half. Is kind of how the finances roll for that. And if they have fundraising money, they can use that to apply to the registration fees for how students fund their experience. And of course, we come back in November.
Right? That's always the exciting part for us. And administration approves. Okay, is there a motion to approve? Katie, is there a second? Is that Amy? Yeah. Okay. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Will you be stopping at our favorite?
We will make a stop at Albany.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you. Next, we have a request for the Hatchet Club to camp overnight in the middle of winter. So I throw that in there. I was like, what? Is that right? Is this like tent camping? Is this the kind of camping? Does anyone know?
Is it camping?
It's not tent camping.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have a big heater in there.
Yeah.
Cold weather survival techniques.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and you approve administration?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Chuck, is there a second? Chris, any questions or discussion?
I'm assuming that's the same as the FFA where they, the $55 pay to fundraising or something, like we're just rolling the tip, or are they actually asking us to pay the 55?
No, they.
They're not asking us, okay.
Okay.
Any other?
Sometimes we help out with transportation, things like that, but
Great, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I wonder if they're gonna come and tell us how that went.
Yeah, with the CrossFit team.
Yeah.
no frostbite fingers, we're gonna be fine, everyone will be nice and warm.
Next we have, special education policy and procedure handbook.
This is just something we have to do every year. We just approved the book that DPI tells us, hey, this is the way to do it. There's a link if you have it, you wanna see it, but, I don't know, Kim, anything else you wanna add about the special ed handbook? Yeah, I haven't either, so, same thing we've done for as long as.
Just
I've
because
been
we have to have one.
Yep.
And we follow the legal one.
here. Yep, there we go, keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah, is there a motion to approve? Chris, is there a second? Amy? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We do have a staff resignation. And, for Olivia McDonald, the art teacher of 7 years, is there a motion to approve with thanks for her 7 years? Right, so Katie and Rainey, any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New professional staff, new art teacher, Sally Ambrose. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Chuck, is there a second? Amy, any questions, discussions, any comments? 26 years of teaching.
Yeah, happy to get Sally in, you know, sorry to see Olivia go, she was fantastic, kids loved her. Sally comes in, as an artist, as a professional artist, and doing some really great things, so, I think we lost a very good staff member, and we got another very good staff member, so.
I don't know if this is where I should ask it, and I don't even know I'm going to refer this right, but isn't there something like, so Olivia's letter had the $2,000 check thing in there? But if we find somebody to replace them, does that still apply, or does that still apply?
Yeah.
I was thinking that
What about the
something
time
like-
period?
Yeah. So Olivia actually resigned the Friday before the last board meeting. And since everything was done at that time, we had to hold it off till now. She did pay her severance for leaving that late. Fortunate, we had somebody else that, heard about this, with Sally. And, you know, we had some of our friends here that helped say, hey, we got a job open, and, we were able to have Sally here start. Did she even make it to in-service?
She did.
She made it to some in-service days, and we're here from the first day, so we were able to.
Work with the Sheboygan School District where they released her from her. Working together with Sheboygan.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We do have notification of new support and or salaried staff, food service Susan Carter, daycare teacher Deborah Berth, and fitness center supervisor Eric Rathke. He was, I don't know if he was voluntold at home or.
Heard something about a wedding coming
But
up,
hey,
right? Yeah,
it's working out for us, so.
yes, it is.
Thank you. Co-curricular coaches and advisors notifications, sophomore class co-advisor Sally Ambrose with, Sid Lucas. Connor Schwab, he's a past graduate for the choreography. Josh Smith, Mike Schwab, and Lisa, I don't know how you say that.
Maslin?
Maslin. Okay. Next we have, what is this? ESSA, do you
Yeah,
say that?
ESEA.
ESEA,
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
say it, make a word out of
There
it.
you go.
Consolidated plan and continued participation in the title programs. We have Title I, Title IIA, Title IIIA, Title IVA. This is something that we do every year,
Yep.
and it's gonna be about $118,976
And it's all, this is the federal money that we get is through titles.
for our title. Is there a motion to approve? Katie and Rini? Any questions or discussion?
And a lot of this is what Sandy is helping us with.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Because as you can imagine, anytime federal funds, there's all kinds of paperwork that goes with it, so yes, yes.
Then we have our report of fundraising activities for 23-24. Just a list enclosed in our packets of who's doing what and what they expect to make. Looks like still lots of food.
Lots
We
of
like
food.
food.
Even some chicken poop on there though. Don't
Oh,
forget the
boy.
chicken poop bingo.
That must be Whitney.
It's definitely Whitney, yes, yes.
Any questions on that? All right, and then we have the fall sports update and Random Lake Athletics.
Hey, we have Brandon here, to come talk a little bit about how fall sports are going and answer any questions that you may have.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's nice to be with you finally, where Monday night works, for me to come and talk to you about where we're at. Fall sports are off and running, doing exceptionally well, actually. Obviously, this is our first fall with our co-op in soccer with Random Lake and Ozaki. They actually are off playing tonight, and they are currently 4-4, 0-4 in conference. I know that in the brief conversations I've had with students, they're absolutely enjoying the fact that they have some subs this year and that they aren't all, worn out and exhausted by the time they get to the second half. So all looks pretty well with that co-op, and it's going exactly the way we had hoped it would. Football, 25 kids out for football. Soccer has 15 kids from Random Lake out for it, and the rest of the 25 are from Ozaki. That was discussed last year. The whole point of the co-op was neither school was going to have enough kids to field the team, and now we were able to even have JV soccer, which is the first for us, which is great. Football, 25 students are out for football this year. 3 of them are currently injured to the point where they're not playing anymore. 3-2 record. So despite the coach's concern for safety and not having enough kids, they're up. They're doing pretty well. So football is off and running. Cross country has 10 students out this year for cross country. The struggle with cross country is that with 10 kids, it's not considered a WIAA team, right? It's hard for them to compete at a team level, but because it's also a individual sport, the kids are finding success in there as well. There is a nice bumper crop of middle school kids that are running, 7th graders and 8th graders. So I know that Mrs. Weeks is very excited about getting them running and having to do things so that we can hopefully see that number increase as we move forward. Volleyball, new coach this year, Lizzie Walters is taking the helm of that. There are 29 girls out for volleyball, which is great because we were able to field 3 teams. So varsity, JV, and then JV2, which is what they used to call freshmen when we were kids. It's the freshman team. The best part about having the 3 teams with that many kids, these kids are playing a bunch. There's nothing worse than having 2 teams of 14 girls and then having half of them not play. If any of you ever spent time and we talk a little bit about my philosophy about athletics, I'm all about kids participating and getting involved and being able to play. Having coached, having done those things, when my kids don't play, they quit. And then we can't get them back. And a direct reflection of that is what happened through the pandemic, which is kind of where we are numbers wise. So just to give you kind of an idea of where we are, we have 79 kids in high school that are participating in sports out of 220. So we have about 36% of our school participates in athletics. I think a big part of this that we've seen is the pandemic. Kids lost those opportunities, and some of them realized they didn't necessarily need them anymore or want them, or to deal with the amount of work that went into doing it. So our goal is to continue to work with the middle school kids, with the younger kids, because it's my belief that as those younger kids who are not nearly as affected by the loss of what the high school kids did, that we can help, rebuild this, and that becomes more evident as we look at some of the numbers. The other thing we're going to do this year is basketball in the middle school has been a problem getting numbers. Last year, we were only able to field one team of girls and one team of boys, where in the past it would have been a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. We're lucky to have 11 7th and 8th grade girls going out for basketball this year. That's it. So we are going to open it up to the 6th grade, and we're going to try and get them involved into basketball. Many of the schools in our conference are in the exact same boat that we are. I sit through these athletic meetings, and I can tell you right now, it is a constant struggle by every school. How are we going to get kids involved? How do we keep them out? What do we do? So we are not immune to what has happened. We are certainly not unique in this respect. Right now, it's what do we do to encourage them back into participation. To give you an idea, the enrollment numbers today, because I'm always looking at this because it affects our sports thing, we're about 220 kids in the high school this year. And I think one thing that we always have to remember is that 15 years ago, there were 450 kids in this high school? When we have as many offerings, which we are so fortunate to have, where kids can participate, boys and girls in athletics, we're trying to do the exact same amount with half as many kids. So we have to be aware of those kind of things too. So as we move forward and we continue to grow and encourage these middle school kids to stay active, the biggest challenge is going to be what can we do, not only from my office of the AD, but from all the way across parents, encouraging the kids to go out for sports and to participate in those, participate in multiple seasons of sports, because that's another one where, we have kids that do one season and they don't play the other two. Definitely impacts us as a district and our athletic team. So we're starting to see that a little bit. Soccer was the first one. Fortunately, we had an answer, so that's working out well. So that will be the continued push for athletics to keep it viable and competitive as we move forward.
Combining is the continued push.
No, combining only when we have to. I mean, if it's a difference of finding someone to co-op or not being able to offer the sport, obviously we want to find someone to co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the hardest part about that is many of the schools that are close to us, right, are big. Lewisburg, Cedar Grove, they're much bigger than we are. They don't need us. So they don't have to take us on. We were in that situation with Ozaki where neither one of us was going to be able to do this. And so combining it was ideal for both to be able to have this. There it made sense.
Where are we at with football? Is there any talk with Ozaki about, I know it's been discussed here several times.
Yeah.
What direction we might go there? Or...
And I think that discussion is going to come up here, as we move forward. There's always discussion. I know coaches, when I ask questions, coaches always say, "Oh, we're just talking about this sport right now." I can tell you, we have discussions about every sport all year long because the soccer schedule for next year is done. The officials for next year are being assigned. Football schedule will be done in the next 2 weeks. We're always 1 year ahead. And so that really kind of puts us into the needing to have the conversations consistently and constantly so that we can make decisions that are best for our kids, because ultimately that's what we want, right? We want them to have the best.
I understand the process with WIA is 2 years of notification anyhow.
Well,
Yeah.
yes and no. I mean, it affects playoffs more than anything. So like if we have to make a change potentially immediately to have or not have the sport, it might just mean that we are not eligible for the playoffs in that particular sport for that next season, where the season after that we can't. It's not necessarily taking away the ability for us to have the sport or participate.
But this agenda item right now is this year,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
future, right?
Yep.
Right, no, I didn't want to
So-
get too much, I just want to know
Yep.
something that's.
I think it's important to know the know how it
Right.
works, to the ins and outs. of
Exactly.
WIA. is
I'm just trying to figure out where we're at.
Two other quick questions.
Yep.
You mentioned about cross country. How many do you need, how many members or players do you need to be a full?
That is one I'm gonna have to come back to you on, because we haven't had that for a while. I want to say 15. For a team?
Yeah.
Well, then I'll talk to Nat.
Scoring a meet, you gotta have 5 runners.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're.
It's incomplete team, and that might be what it is, what it has been in the past with freshmen, or whatever she does, but.
It'll be 5 males, 5 females, so you would need 10
Oh, five of each,
of each.
gender, so male or female. That would be-
And one last thing is, how's the wrestling looking? I know we're not in season yet, but
Not sure. Because that's one of those things that's still in progress. We're putting meets on the calendar yet. We're still scheduling things. The schedule's almost full. Most of those sports, so basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, the larger sports that affect more schools, the conference commissioner does all of those schedules. So like I have zero say whatsoever in basketball schedules or volleyball schedules. That the only thing that we do from my seat is non-conference or tournaments, things like that. JV, the younger kids, that we all schedule usually in coordination with who has the varsity and JV. So we're still working on it. They have a pretty full schedule. Matt and Haley just sent me information about which invitationals that they want to continue to add yet. There's like 2 more. And then they have.
I guess I was wondering, as far as participation numbers, are they looking?
Yeah, that I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's kind of like basketball. It's kind of like rolling the dice. I mean, we think we know how many we had last year, and then we'll see
Until they actually,
right until they sign on.
totally get.
Yep. Great question.
Yeah, last year you guys handed out something that some sports were on probation because they didn't have a certain amount of numbers. You have that again this year. You must be following some guidelines.
Yeah, so probation just basically allows us with the WIAA. Okay, that's their wording for whether or not you know you're gonna have enough kids to participate. If you get under a certain number, we'll use soccer as an example. If you don't have 11 kids to put on the field, you end up on probation. You can put yourself on probation so you don't lose the sport. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing is we don't lose the opportunity to have it. Just because you're on probation doesn't mean anything bad. It's not something that is negative. It just means that we are unsure right now if we're gonna be able to support that team for this year. But then we get 20 kids next year, we're fine, and we can pull ourselves off of probation. It's basically a protection for us to not lose the sport.
And the other probation is actually a policy that this board put together, around how many students we need for any one sport.
Right.
And it's 1.5 times, in general, it's 1.5 times the number of students we need on the playing field to have a team. So if you have a team, let's say you just need 10, that means that you need to have 15 players out for the team. Once you have 16, you wouldn't be on probation. So we have some of our sports that are falling under that 1.5%.
But it's
Golf, I
golf
think,
is
was
another-
one that was on probation along with soccer's with them. So
Football would be done too, considering how many kids. come to
It is not, because we still have 25 kids. You only need 11 on the field at one time, so 1.5 times that. So, yeah, yes, it's close, but we're not there.
Thanks for being patient with us tonight. Thanks for what you're doing.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
I think there's some kind of statistic for students that are multi-sport athletes and their GPA. Because I remember years ago, how we would line the whole front of the auditorium with students getting that award. That might be a great stat to share with parents to hopefully encourage their middle schoolers and participate. I was always overwhelmed by the impact and how many students were receiving that. Really proud of that. So thank you for.
It'd be nice to get back to that.
It would.
We'll continue to work. Like I said, this is an uphill battle. I came into this job without really a mentorship and figuring this all out on my own. So every day is a new experience. So, but the ultimate goal is to keep every sport we can active at Random Lake and getting the kids actively involved. I mean, that will be the goal until the day I'm not doing this. So that's the pledge I'm giving you. So appreciate your time. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, informational item.
Okay, well, this is a long meeting, so I'm gonna go really quick, with these. 23, 24, our annual meeting is next month, so remember, we kind of change up the cadence a little bit. So we will be meeting twice next month, right? Kim, so is it the 16th and the 23rd? Or is it 23rd and 30th? We have 5. Okay. The 23rd then. So make sure you have on your calendars the 16th and the 23rd.
Which one's the regular meeting, the
The
16th?
regular meeting is the 16th and then the annual meeting will be the 23rd.
Okay.
Legislative update, we had Devin Lemieux come in today, talk a little bit about Act 20, which is the new reading bill. It's a bill that's passed. They don't know exactly what it means yet because they don't have the committee together. You may have heard also the financial literacy bill has been signed by both houses. It's going in front of the governor here shortly. That is for every student to graduate with a half a credit of financial literacy, which will be coming for the graduating class of 2028. And then, yeah, the governor will probably sign that. So we've done all kinds of financial literacy things. We haven't put it in a class. Not a huge fan of loading up a student's schedule. I think there's other ways to work with your community and do really cool things. But you know, Susan and I, we talked about it. We'll figure out and we'll make sure that our students are already getting it. Now we'll just classify it into a credit and do some of the things that we're already doing. Mr. Wills has been fantastic with some of the things that he's doing. So once the legislation and DPI tells us exactly what they want out of it, we'll put that together. Before the end of the day, or I'll throw it out probably Friday, we'll start looking for our fall board retreat dates. Usually because we meet so much in October, we'll try to do it maybe right after Thanksgiving or something, do beginning of December if that works for everybody. Or right before Thanksgiving. I'll throw an email out and see what works for everyone. As I said earlier, Ice Cream Social was postponed. I do see that Bethany's here, so I just put it out for 4 kids. The Sunday, what day is that? October 6th, because our Ice Cream Social and our back to school also had a movie night. So 4 kids is going to be kicking off our homecoming week that Sunday night with, what's that? The 8th, okay, the 8th, with the movie that we missed in August, and then we will have all our great homecoming events. On October 11th, we will be doing our open house, so parents can come in and get some of those same things that we missed back on that August date when it was no lie 100 degrees in the hallways, and it was a skating rink in some of the areas that the precipitation was coming off the floor so much. So I spoke to a lot of parents around that, asking, hey, sorry, what were your thoughts? I have yet to have anybody say that wasn't a good idea to postpone that. I don't know how much parents wanted to be here when it was that hot. So that's something we wanted to do, but it worked out well in the end. And I think we're making lemonade out of these lemons. And then lastly, I just want to put this on your radar. We have a partnership with Kiel that allows some of our students that have legal issues, have restraining orders, that they can do an online school. We're looking at a partnership with them because we do have some homeschool students in this area that they could actually help those homeschool families educate their students and still be part of the district and help with that. So We don't have many, I think Kim and I looked at it, we have a few families that choose this, but it's an opportunity to show them what we're doing here and also support them. So
So are you talking about expanding that so that more students can be a part of it?
it's more, it's the right option for some families. And what we can do is if you choose to do that, there's ways that we can give those families resources, and have them still have control of their curriculum, but give them the resources of the things we use in the schools. So, I wouldn't say expanding it, but offering it to the families that have chosen. So,
Okay. We do have a closed session on tonight. The board will go into closed session as permitted under Wisconsin State Statutes, Chapter 19, Section 1985, 1I, to discuss future student activities, considerations, and opportunities. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion.
Chris, is there a second?
I'll second.
Chuck, this requires a roll call vote. Katie?
Aye.
I vote yes. Amy?
Yes.
Chris? Chuck?
Yes.
Rainey? Yes. Okay, we are in closed session. Thank you very much for coming.